Mm. Namaskar, good evening, and welcome to Upaj, episode 11. Um, at the very beginning, our sincere apologies for failing to turn up on the second half of November, as I had promised in episode 10, where Devanjunda was the guest. Uh, Today's guest is the Harmonium exponent Sri Suvendu Banerjee, who is going to be jointly hosted by Swarnabha and Chitrayudh. This is the first time that we are trying this two host format. So please do leave your feedback, your opinion in the comments uh, during the stream or after the stream. And I sincerely hope that you enjoy today's session. Thank you so
Hello, everyone. A very good evening and welcome to Upaj. This is Swarnabha, and we also have Chitrayudh in the studio today, and we are going to be interviewing Shri Suvendu Banerjee, the great harmonium exponent of the Gaya Gharana. So, Chitrayudh, would you please?
Swarnabha, am I audible? Please let me know if I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay. Namaskar to Upaj once again. This is season two. I'm Chitrayudh Ghatok, co-hosting with my good friend Sri Swarnabha Gupta. And today we have a young and promising harmonium player, Sri Suvendu Banerjee, with us. We are going to be interviewing him uh, in taking turns and inquiring him about the various aspects of the harmonium in the context of Indian classical music. As you know, the harmonium is of European origin, but it has found great popularity in Indian classical music over the last century, especially in North India. And therefore, we are going to trace the history of the harmonium. We are going to inquire about how the harmonium was adapted to suit raga music, because raga music has its own soundscape, which required certain modifications into the harmonium, how the harmonium has adapted itself, and how harmonium as a solo instrument uh, has gained a certain level of respectability with the greatest of harmonium players like Shubhendu Babu's Dada Guruji, Pandit Montu Banerjee. We'll inquire about all these things, and over to Shonnabhu now.
Okay. Dada, welcome to Upaj. We are really, really pleased to have you here tonight with us.
Thank you so
Uh,
much. Pleasure is all mine.
And I think we should begin with the questions right away. We just heard a beautiful Surdasi Mallar played by you with our very dear Shomin Nundi on tabla. It
Thank you.
was absolutely fantastic. And I just mentioned to you a few minutes ago that it's raining here in Pune, and it was so natural and so spontaneous
Thank you
listening to
so
your
much. And
Surdasi.
probably it is going to rain tomorrow in Kolkata as well, as per the weather forecast, not due to my Surdasi Mallas.
Okay, Dada. So we'll
Well,
start
you
off with
never
the
know.
questions for today.
You always get the benefit of doubt.
I take that.
Okay, so the first question for you is, of course, the most cliched one. I ask everyone who comes to Upach this. So, Dada, how did your musical journey start? Because we all know you were a child prodigy. So, was that an added pressure to your childhood and everything? We would really love to know your story.
Hmm. First of all, thank you for having me on this show, Upaj. I really like the name Upaj. It means a lot of things, and I am quite associated to Upaj in every what way. And good evening to all the viewers. Thank you for joining with us. And thank you for, you know, uh, giving enthusiasm to the Indian classical music and to all young musicians like us by at least joining this show because we really need support, love, and blessings. So coming to the question now, music was not really a choice for me. I should rephrase my sentence that not doing music was not really a choice for me. Since my childhood days, I've seen my grandfather, Pandit Kumar Banerjee, the legendary harmonium player, the legendary harmonium maestro of Gaya Gharana, grandson of Pandit Montu Babu, uh, in my house because he was my grandfather. And all the stalwarts of earlier generation to me, whom I call uncle, like Bikram Kaku, Pandit Bikram Ghosh, Shubhankar Kaku, Pandit Shubhankar Banerjee, or Tanmay Kaku, Pandit Tanmay Bose used to visit my place, Pandit Vishwa Mohan Bhatt, Pandit Tarun Bhattacharya, and to name a lot of them of the prior generation, the earlier generation used to visit my house. So uh, the word I would say mahol, the mahal of music was there in my home, and quite obvious, I did not have any other choice. But when I started showing up my interest uh, regarding harmonium, my grandfather was very strict. And first of all, he told my parents, my mother to be specific, that I need first the knowledge of rhythm and tabla. And I was literally forced to learn tabla initially because the knowledge of rhythm is very important. But nevertheless, tabla is still my first love as far as music is concerned, and I love tabla. Till now, the first track which I prefer to listen on YouTube or on any platform is tabla solo, probably. So I started off with my tabla learning with Ustad Sabir Khan Saab, and he was very kind enough to have taken me as a student. Then I continued with Pandit Shankar Ghoshji, Pandit Bikram Ghoshji, and I learned a little bit of rhythm cycle, the intricacies of rhythm cycle and core tabla, to be specific. And then somehow I moved to harmonium, and my grandfather was convinced to teach me. And the added pressure which you're talking about, I never had pressure. Uh, Till now, I do not have pressure regarding music because music is all about my love, fun. It's like playing games for me. It was always like playing games for me since my childhood. Nowadays, I see a lot of young kids playing video games or games over their mobile phone, and music was absolutely like that to me. Because whenever I used to get lessons or something like that, I had the utmost rush to complete it and get the next one. So that probably helped me in not taking any sort of pressure. Today itself, I was talking to somebody and telling him that since childhood, I did not know what do you mean by playing concert and earning money? What do you mean by, having a big name or, buying a house out of music? I did not know. I just knew that uh, I love music and I did music for just love and out of love. And that is how there wasn't any pressure for me. That is the best way I
Right,
could put it.
right. So please tell us more about your guru, Pandit Dev Kumar Banerjee, and your Dada Guruji, the legendary Pandit Montu Banerjee, and about the
Yeah,
roots of the Gaya Gharana. How did the harmonium reach Gaya and to your ancestors?
yeah. This is a very important note or a very important question which you have put up. First of all, let me talk about my grandfather, who is the pivot character for me regarding my musical life and regarding my life as well, because he was a very strict taskmaster. And since my childhood, I was absolutely into his hand, whether it be studies, whether it be waking up in the early morning, going for a morning walk or exercising, or coming back, strict disciplinarian, but was never a professional musician in his life. He was like a sadhak, like a sage who used to serve music or Mata Saraswati and only did music for himself and nobody else. He was not bothered how many students he had. He was not bothered what conferences did he get called from, or he wasn't bothered. Actually, he wasn't bothered at all that whether he is propagating his music or whether anybody is listening to him. He was like that. So it was very difficult for me to get a, an entry. Uh, in reference to learning harmonium, because he used to always say that you have to bring it up from there. You have to have that ashirvad or that blessing to start off with. You can't be my grandson or you can't be anybody uh, and just go for it. It is not like that. You have to have that blessing. Unless you have that blessing, you can never learn. And I was a little cranky as a kid because I did not know the meaning of this sentence. I had to learn. The only thing I had in my mind is that I want to play harmonium, no matter what. Whether I be good, whether I be bad, whether I be whatever, I want to play harmonium. And then the journey started, and I have always, the initial days were very tough with him because he was, as I told you, a strict disciplinarian and a very hard taskmaster. And he was very moody. The rag which I learned probably now, the turn used to come after a month or maybe 6 months. And I was a kid of only 6 or 7 at that time, and it was very tough for me to cope up with that. And there were other students who used to learn with my grandfather, Pandit Dev Kumar Banerjee, and I used to sit with a harmonium, trying to play with them, trying to cope up with him, playing odd notes, wrong things in the ragas, getting rebuked, thrown out from the room literally. You get lost, and then again coming back, trying, and it was like a challenge. It was like a game every time because unless and until you prove yourself, no matter who I am, whether I be his grandson, he was never satisfied in making people learn unless and until you are absolutely at it. So that is how I saw my grandfather. He was accompanied by all maestros like Pandit Anindya Chatterjee, Ustad Sabiq Khan Sahab. In fact, Zakir ji also have come to my place. So I've seen all stalwarts accompanying him. And it was an amazing ambience of just learning and devoting yourself towards music. Uh, at that point of time, I did not realize the expertise or the knowledge which the man had. But the one point reference which I can give you, that whenever I had a question, I knew that if I was stuck somewhere, my grandfather knew that answer, and he always had that answer and the key to the lock which I was facing at that time. And now I come to my Dada Guruji, Sangitacharya Montu Banerjee. Unfortunately, I have not seen him, but I've heard a lot of stories from my grandfather and from all other stalwarts. He was probably the Mount Everest of harmonium playing. Uh, uh, you know, we could call him the father of solo harmonium playing in India. He designed we nowadays in commercial music or in modern music we hear the term designing music, designing something. He designed the solo harmonium playing. Before him in Gaya Gharana, the harmonium playing was there, and uh, it was not so called a proper solo playing like other instruments, for example sitar, sarod, or uh, or any other instrument. The solo harmonium playing with Khayalang, with Dhrupadang, with Thumri, with Talkari and everything uh, came in vogue with my Dada Guruji. He learned from Pandit Muneshwar Dayalji, who was a doyen of Gaya Gharana, a brilliant person, a very sharp, very educated person with a lot of Ragdari intricacies and the Talkari intricacies, and then Soni Maharaj, and it was a long tradition. So the first thing, the glamorous harmonium playing with a wholesome flavor into it, not scattered playing or not, part playing of the instrument, came down from Pandit Mantu Banerjee, my Dada Guruji. Now the question to which I come to is how it came to Gaya. Actually, the Gharana started off at Gwalior, and the the root person of this gharana was a lady. She was called Chandrabhaga Devi, Gwalior queen, and she first brought harmonium from one of the first people who brought harmonium from France. And she ordered harmonium and brought it to Gwalior. And she used to play the folding harmonium with his son on her lap. And his son was none other than the father of Gaya Gharana, Ganpat Rao Bhaiya Sahab, Pandit Ganpat Rao Bhaiya Sahab, who was a very well established vocal artist and a harmonium player as well, both together. But the general playing was more or less Thumri based. Then the Khayalang was incorporated in Gaya, where it came down to the next generation. And Pandit Muneshwar Dayalji, the guru of Pandit Montu Banerjee, was taught by his Fufaji Gopi Babu. And from there is a long chain. Gopi Babu has his guru as you know. So it was a long chain. Ganpat Rao Bhaiya Sahab was his guru, and then the Khyal came from Gopi Babu to Muneshwar Dayalji, and to Muneshwar Dayalji to Montu Babu. Montu Babu learned vocal music to introduce the Khayalang from Pandit Mustaq Hussain Khan Sahab, and he had a amazing tabla knowledge. He had three gurus, three pillars of Indian classical tabla playing. One is Ustad Maseed Khan Sahab, one is Ustad Nattu Khan Sahab, and one is Ustad Abid Hussain Khan Sahab. So he learned tabla from three maestros: vocal music from Mustaq Hussain Khan Sahab and harmonium from Pandit Muneshwar Dayal. And my grandfather actually was very lucky to have the juice or the extract or the summarized thing from his guru, which I learned from my grandfather and trying to pursue. So that is
Nice.
a very long journey cut short, you know, uh, a summarized version of the journey of Gaya Gharana.
Absolutely beautiful, Dada. Do you mind if we play a little clip of your Guruji, Pandit Dev Kumar
Sure,
Banerjee?
sure. Please go ahead. It'll be a pleasure.
That was absolutely stunning. Like, no words to describe how beautiful it is.
This track made me so nostalgic. It was in '92. It was one of the biggest festivals in Calcutta. It was called Sri Rampur Kullan Shomiti. Now, unfortunately, it stopped. It is not now in vogue. So I was a boy of probably five. I was not six, and I was sitting on the stage. It was midnight, and I was yawning badly, but still I was very adamant to be just by his side. Uh, and he was, I just only remember one thing, that music was just oozing out of everywhere. It was just music, 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 and nothing else. So that was a very nostalgic video.
Okay, Dada, now we'll move on to our next question. So, I'm going to ask you the next question.
Sure.
So now you have been under the tutelage of Pandit Shyamal Chatterjee, who is one of the senior most disciples of Pandit Ravi Shankar ji. So, how has the experience been learning from an instrumentalist who's from a completely different forte of music, like sitar, and who has Ravi Shankar ji's Baj, and how are you incorporating that into your harmonium playing?
It is another incredible journey of my life, and I'm really, blessed to have had gurus of this nature. I call him Shamol Dadu, and he has accepted this name because everybody calls him Guruji, and I call him Shamol Dadu. I used to call my grandfather Dadam, so I never called anybody Guruji. They were all like my granddads. So I call him Shamol Dadu, and he readily accepted that I am your grandfather, like your grandfather. He is uh, probably 8 years older than my grandfather, and may God give him even longer life. One day I went to him uh, to make him listen to my music and just take his opinion or take his blessings. And I was taken to him by Obirup, a very young sitar player. He's a very nice sitar artist, student of him. Obirup took me. I'm very grateful to Obirup that he took me to Shamal Dadu, and I played in front of him. And after playing, I was just sitting in front of him, and he told that probably Obirup wasn't there in the room. He went out for some work. He told me that I'm getting very old. Uh, I had no clue what he was saying. He told that I'm getting very old. I don't know how much life I have. So I want to teach you. Whatever things I know, I want to give it to you. It was just like, you know, a bolt out of the blue. And it was so pleasant. I never expected the man of that stature could take me as his student. He was so phenomenal. Uh, I told that it is going to be my very good fortune that if I become your student. So he told that you do not come on the crowded days, you come alone, and I'm going to teach you. And um, a new door opened in front of me. The Gaya Gharana, not only Ravi Shankar ji, he's the oldest student of Ravi Shankar ji, and he also learned from Mia Ustad Dabir Khan Sahab, who was the last descendant of Senia Gharana. So the Gaya Gharana things or material which Shyamol Ladu or Pandit Shyamol Chatterjee has, I do not know how many people do know that. And in front of me, a new dimension opened. I have never seen that dimension of music. Uh, my grandfather was a pillar of music to me. He showed me a dimension of music, or different dimensions of music. But Shyamol Ladu is another pillar of my musical life who showed me absolutely different dimension of music. And I was very lucky that ultimately my music or my playing got enriched. I do not know how well I could render the teachings of them. I do not know. I do not have clue that you people might be knowing better, but I am very privileged and honored to have had this sort of gurus in my life. The Senia Baj, and one more thing, one more questions which you relevantly asked, that a guru from a different instrumental background, how can that influence? Ultimately, when the guru is of that stature, the instrument doesn't matter. The guru itself becomes the instrument. So, all whether your guru is a tabla player or a vocal artist or a harmonium player or a sitarist, it doesn't matter. Your guru itself becomes the instrument. So, no matter what instrument the person is speaking via, doesn't matter. So, it is only the language of music which matters. And you know, I still, due to this COVID crisis, I have not met him in person for now more than a year, but I am regularly in touch with him over phone, and I take lessons from him. And it is really my good fortune. I even told him that if somebody stands in front of your door and just listens to you, his musical life will be enriched. And I'm very privileged to have been sitting in your music room. I'm really privileged.
Very beautiful, Dada. Very beautiful. Okay, Chitrayudh, on to you for the next question.
Yes. Thank you, Swarnabha, for unmuting me. Uh, so, in these lines, the harmonium playing style that you represent bears elements of the Dhrupad Ang Baj, as opposed to the usual Khayal Ang approach, where the harmonium is more of a mainstay as an accompanying instrument. How did the Dhrupad Ang Baj get pioneered and established on the harmonium?
Actually, again, I have to start with my Dada Guruji, the first reference point which I have regarding the harmonium playing. As he had a very strong knowledge of vocal music, uh, and at that point in time, Dhrupad was a very viable genres, to be frank, because Khayal was relatively young and Thumri was younger. So Dhrupad music was quite evident, and whatever instrumental music which we hear, which are almost 80 to 100 years old, have a lot of prevalence of Dhrupad Ang of playing, and which has evolved down to Khayal, perhaps. So exactly, I cannot demarcate this incorporation of Dhrupad Ang, but as I have learned a summarized version of this harmonium playing from my guru, which eventually he learned from his guru, I cannot demarcate the specific juncture where Dhrupad Ang has been incorporated into the playing. But the main forte or the main playing pattern of Dhrupad Ang, the Jod Ang of our playing, has a lot of importance. The Jod Ang, the Vilambit Jod without the beat cycle, having the fourth structure, and coming back to the fourth always. So we have learned that very meticulously, and I remember learning it from my Guruji. He was usually in the Jod where the beat cycle is not there. Mm, I don't know whether many people are aware or not. Must be aware, those who are learned persons. that we are having that four pattern going on in the jod, and we cannot land anywhere we wish to. We have to come after four, we have to land at first and give the mohra always, and it should be always. So that is a very typical structure of Dhrupadam. Then the nom tom playing is not directly possible in harmonium, but the pattern playing, uh, what I feel is that when I I'm giving you an example, just an analogy, that when I am having a strawberry ice cream, it does not matter that I am having strawberry or not, but the flavor of the strawberry should be there. That is very important. The pieces of the strawberry doesn't matter. When I'm having the ice cream, I should feel that the flavor or the essence of the strawberry is there. So that is the philosophy behind my playing or our playing of harmonium. It is more like which we in Bengali say bhabanubad, or the summarized translation or a meaningful translation, not a direct translation. Uh, just to give you one more point, generally harmonium playing in general is related to playing of songs, or song playing, to be specific, song playing on harmonium, whether it be bandish, whether it be a thumri, whether it be anything. And this song playing is coined as gaiki playing also. But unfortunately, according to my learning, to the best of my education, this is not gaiki. Song playing is not gaiki. Again, I go back to that ice cream analogy. The flavor of the gaiki should be there in your playing. When a sitarist is playing a mead or a gamak or a gaiki pattern on sitar, or a sarod player is playing, is the person imitating the vocalist? No, I don't think. But he is just doing what it makes, he's just trying to incorporate the vocal juices into his playing by not imitating. Because if somebody tries to imitate, it becomes a little bit of a mockery, I feel.
A caricature, if you may.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is not that we also play few vocal bandishes or few popular tumri patterns on harmonium, and they are direct translation. But I mean, it is not always that you're playing a typical pattern, and absolutely a copy of a vocal structure of playing. Then where is the individuality of your instrument? That is my question. There are vocal structures played on all other instruments, because vocal is the Uttam Sangeet, which we all know, because that is the basis of everything. You cannot surpass vocal music. That is the basis of everything. But instrumental music has essence of his own. So why not exploiting that, keeping the basis of vocal music?
Right.
That is the philosophy of Gaya Gharana.
I completely agree. I mean, instrumental music should have a narrative of its own. It should not be an
Absolutely.
imitation. Because even if it is
Absolutely.
a good imitation, it will still be an imitation.
Surely, surely. And as long as it is an imitation, you do not have an individual identity.
Chitrayudh, on to you,
Swarnabha, would you
mates.
like to ask the next question?
Okay, cool. So, Dada, apart from harmonium and vocal music, you were mentioning that you have also had the good fortune of receiving a lot of talim in tabla. Like that's how your musical journey started. So, it would be great if you could share a few memorable experiences of your
Sure,
tabla
sure. It
talim.
will be a pleasure. So, tabla, as I told you, tabla was my first love. Tabla is my first love. I love to listen to tabla. I do not have opportunity to to play much these days, but tabla have always been my first love. I started my tabla with Ustad Sabir Khan Sahab, and Khan Sahab was kind enough to have taken me his student. It was only because of my grandfather reference, because I was a boy of 2.5 or 3 at that time. So I just could sit and just, you know, give a little bit of strokes to the tabla. And since then, I started tabla and learning tabla. Rhythm was always, in my heart, and I enjoyed it a lot. But at the back of the mind, it is always there that it is harmonium which I wanted to pursue. Though I love playing tabla, but I always knew at the back of the mind that it is for the harmonium I am playing tabla. It is not for tabla. I used to accompany with my grandfather. I used to learn a lot of tals from my grandfather, basic structure of the talkari part of instrumental playing. And tabla has helped me a lot because while teaching my students, I have seen maximum students face difficulty as far as the talkari is concerned because the ragdari you know, is initially a structure based kind of a mechanism which comes from the guru, but though talkari is also structure based, but internalization of the rhythm is very important. What I mean by that is it is something like a heartbeat which is beating at a at a specific BPM, and it is going on. I have seen students, because these students have been a lot of they are kind of experimental to me. I've seen a lot of students, those are doing brilliantly in life as far as their work life is concerned. They are at a at top positions in their corporate life, but they were amazing in maths. They have never got less than 100 in maths ever, but not getting acquainted with the teen tal or in fact dadra. I've seen this. So rhythm is a very important thing, and it is probably a natural somebody who has rhythm is a natural. Somebody who doesn't have rhythm, I doubt that whether it can be grossly invoked into that person or not. So tabla has helped me a lot, and Bumba Kaka or Bikram Koshji gave me a lot of instrumental specific like Ari Talim, which I was privileged.
Correct. Um, Now, my next question is that your playing style has many layers and many dimensions from all aspects of Indian vocal music. Apart from your Dhrupad presentations, you also excel in Khayal and Thumri renditions. What was the impact of vocal music on your playing style as a whole? And as far as Thumri is concerned, Gaya was also an epicenter for Thumri. Gaya Ang Thumri was it is a part of the Purab Ang family of Thumris, along with Lucknow and
Absolutely.
Banaras. So, would you like to comment on these things?
Sure, sure, sure. Very nice questions. Thank you for coming up with so interesting and such nice thing. Uh, Before going
Thank
to the
you.
questions, I would tell all the viewers and the host as well that I was very tense to come up for this interview. I'm not, um, I'm not well versed with, talking regarding music. It is much easier for me to sit with my black box and perform. It is very difficult to talk and explain stuff because mm, most of the things are very self-explanatory, and
Correct.
music is very difficult to be explained via words. So coming
Right.
to the vocal music, I was privileged enough to have had the vocal talim from Pandit Kumar Prasad Mukhopadhyay, and he gave me a lot of Agra Gharana talim. And the vocal music influence which you're talking about, the vocal music which I have learned did not, I don't believe that had a direct influence over my playing. That might have an impact, obviously, but direct impact was my grandfather's teaching to me, as he had that summarized kind of playing which he learned from Muntu Babu. So I learned that Khayal movement, that Dhrupad movement from him, though I was never taught that individually because we don't believe in that individual existence of it. It is a wholesome harmonium playing technique or a harmonium playing methodology, to be frank. I have never learned Dhrupad or Khayal differently or Thumri differently, but there is an interesting aspect to this. I learned Thumri much later. In the last days of my grandfather, I started learning Thumri, and I failed miserably. At that point, I used to play Khayal, fairly. Fairly means I used to perform with few few great tabla players on a few big stages and few paper cutouts, few billboards. So to me, I was a star to myself. No matter how small I was in my school days. I was in class 8, 9. I used to was playing in Rajya Sangeet Academy, was playing in Doverlin Archive inauguration, I was playing in bigger stages. So to me, I was a star, though I was nothing. But uh, music is such a leveler. When I started learning Thumri from my grandfather, I miserably failed. I miserably failed. I remember he taught me again and again and again, and he used to say that this is not, you have been taught Thumri, but you're not ready to play. So I did not understand this saying of his that you are learning Thumri, you have been taught Thumri, but why can't I play then? So he used to say that after I go off, after 10 years or 6 years, 7 years to 10 years, then you will start playing Thumri because the learning you have learned now, they will blossom after 6 to 10 years. And interestingly, that happened. That happened after he went off. Uh, I started Thumri after 5, 6 years of passing away of my grandfather. And I had no ideas that those lessons were coming back to me, how they were coming back to me. Because I felt Thumri structure playing is the most difficult style. Khyal has his pattern, Drupal has his pattern, a specific structure which you can follow. For a mediocre playing, you can have a frame of reference, though there isn't any frame of reference in any sort of music. But for Khyal and Drupad, you have a frame of reference for at least a mediocre play. But for Thumri, you don't have any reference. Either you are at it or you are not at it. So there is only one thing, it is all or none law, which I believed. It is absolutely my perception. I don't know how much you people will be in sync with my perception. But I felt that Thumri is something you are either at it or you are not at it. Not only Gaya Gharana, the Gaya Gharana Thumri, Montu Babu learned it from his Guruji, Pandit Muneshwar Dayalji, who was a doyen of Gaya Gharana, a brilliant person. But he learned the Banaras Thumri from Girija Babu, Pandit Girija Shankar Chakraborty. So Girija Babu, from him, Girija Babu had learned a lot of Thumri from the Banaras Baijis, and he had a tremendous stock of Thumri, which he gave to Montu Babu. So we have a very clear influence of Banaras, Bolbat, Thumri, and of course the Gaya. So this confluence, this interactive confluence of Montu Babu has helped enriching the Gaya Gharana music and helped us in contributing with those essence into our music.
Very beautiful, and I was listening to a lot of your Thumris from all over YouTube, and I really really love those. So, if you don't mind, here shall we play a little clip of one of your Thumris?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Absolutely phenomenal, Dada. Absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you, thank you.
So much for coming to Upaj tonight and gracing us with your presence.
It was a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
So, Dada, in this recording, we saw some very, very commendable work on the bellow that you're using for your dynamics. So, in that line, I wanted to ask you a question which Anirban had put up to us regarding the harmonium's bellow. So, does the number of folds in the bellow have an impact on your performance when you're
The number of folds have impact, but moreover, it is not about the number of the folds. Actually, I would rephrase the thing or restructure the. This is a very good point which you have come up with. The left hand is the emotion. Your emotion is lies in your left hand, and it is the toughest thing for a harmonium wala to do. You know, your left hand, your bellow is your lungs. It is absolutely lungs of a vocal artist. So the tonal quality or the sweetness or the 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 quality of the harmonium wala is determined by the person's left hand, I believe. So it is, when you, for example, you're playing a tan, you're playing a tan, perhaps a chut tan, which is a jumping note tan. So the force of that chut tan not always depends on your right hand, your press playing, your pressure playing, but both on the left and right hand. The volumetric analysis of the harmonium sound, if you analyze from a physics point of view, depends on both your left and right hand, because the right hand pressure playing has a different kind of a sound, the left hand pressure playing have a different kind of a sound for the same note, and the composite pressure playing has a different sound frame. All have different sound frame. One more thing, the main disadvantage which people talk about the Shruti playing of a harmonium. Say, for instance, a note is perfectly giving a 10 frequency at a specific volume of left hand. So if that volume of inflow is increased, so the 10 does not remain 10. 10 is an optimized value. So it goes under 10, it goes over 10. It depends on the quality of the harmonium and the harmonium wala both to play the shruti which is having for a specific note. So shruti is not impossible to play on harmonium. So a lot of young viewers or music connoisseurs are watching this. People often used to say that shruti is not possible on the harmonium, or transition notes are not possible on the harmonium. But I really beg to differ. If you if you follow physics, sound from the physics point of view, if idealistic frequency of a note is something, it goes a little tad bit up with a more inflow of air, it goes a little low with less air. So it is not always a straight line, but the frequency is going up and down. It might be uh, very subtle variations, but the variation is possible.
It's the
People
same
should think about
principle
this.
as when we use thinner strings on a guitar, and if we hit harder, then there will be a
Absolutely.
slide. Ah,
Absolutely.
I have
And there
never
should be
ever
also a balance.
considered this from
If
this
you use
POV.
thinner reed, then this frequency changes so much that you might go off note or off key. So there has to be a optimized balance in that variance. It can't be a lot of variance. The variance has to be less, and the providence of the variance has to be very low. So if the frequency, you draw a graph, the trough and the bottom should not be too steep. It should be a small structure, but the variation is possible. So people should think, the new harmonium walas or the people, those who want to study harmonium, know about harmonium, should think about this aspect of harmonium, which is very, very interesting and very new. Though the incorporation is old, the application is old, but the thinking is new.
Absolutely. This is the first time someone has told me this about the harmonium, that you can think of it in this way, because I really haven't heard of this before you just told us right now. Okay, so the next question that I'm gonna ask you is
I, in
again.
fact, have a follow-up question on this. So, how
Okay,
would you
go on.
play Andolan or Gamak on harmonium, for that matter? Because when you're playing
Direct
Nom
playing
Tom, you'll
of,
have to play Gamak. For
yeah,
heavier ragas, you'll have to
direct
play
playing.
Andolan.
So sorry to interrupt you in between. Direct nom tom playing or direct gamak playing is not possible on harmonium. If you want a direct, undulation of notes playing, it is not possible. The undulation, which is subtle, is only possible. So in the gamma playing, more than the undulation of the note, the key structure pattern or the movement pattern is, structured in such a way that you feel that it is an undulation or a gamma kind of a movement, which is absolutely a finger mastery and nothing else.
It's just the musical impact of the gamak which is coming and not the
Absolutely.
technical part.
Absolutely. That is the very
Right.
important point, the musical impact of Gamak. The effect of Gamak, but not Gamak. Gamak, if you talk about mead, how can mead be possible on a scaled instrument? That is not possible. But unless and until you
Right.
play mead, you cannot play Darbari Kanara. Then the equation comes
Right.
that you cannot play Darbari Kanara on harmonium. Or can you? So that musical
Right.
impact of Darbari Kannada, if you can create on harmonium, you can very well play. The musical impact of Mead or Gamak, if you can create on harmonium, you can very well play the ragas which need the incorporation of Mead or Gamak. So that is my point. Just don't throw out harmonium. Think a
Right.
little deeply that whether the impact, whether the sound is possible or not. because we are chasing the sound. We are chasing the sound of the Mead or sound of the Gamak. The 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 playing technology or the application technology might be different. It is different in sitar and sarod also because the mead of vocal mead and the sitar mead is not same. It is different, but both has impact. Both has impact. So that is where
Right.
my point lies. Harmonium has its own impact. You cannot just write off harmonium because it is a scaled instrument. It has a Western origin. You cannot do that.
Absolutely.
So
I
it
Absolutely.
is
always believe an
possible to
instrument is
play,
as good as the artist.
right? Absolutely. Absolutely. So it is possible to play the sound of the Gandhar and the Dhaivat of Darbari Kannada on the harmonium. Is that what you're saying?
I believe so.
Okay.
But if you if
Okay.
you if you if you are talking on that point where you want to mark with a frequency meter, I cannot.
Right.
But if you wish to
Right.
listen to Darbari Kannada with full impact of Darbari Kannada and you are rational enough, then I can give you that flavor. That is what I'm trying to tell.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree.
Uh, right.
In
And
these
I
lines,
believe
Um,
that nobody is able enough to strum or hit the proper frequency of Gandhar and Daivat you're talking about. We are somewhere near that or closer to that. So we are chasing the sound which Darbari requires, not the frequency which science requires.
absolutely. And this
right.
we only keep talking about amongst ourselves, like how our music is based on continuous intervals and not discrete frequency metering.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, so Dada, the next question
Um,
that I'm going to ask you is a very
I think
common
I'm going to ask the
question.
next question. You already
Okay,
asked
go
one.
ahead for a change.
No, not for a change. I mean, this following question, I'm going to say a few things about the question itself. This is Swarnabha's favorite question. He keeps asking this question to everyone on the show. And today he has very kindly requested me to ask this question to you. So here it goes. How do you approach a
Uh,
raga at a performance? Is it more of
Chitrayudh,
Sorry, Chitrayud, your voice is getting a little
structural,
muffled.
spontaneous creativity, or maybe a healthy
Chitrayudh,
balance of both? What is your view on this?
Can
Okay.
you come
Can
again
you hear
once
me
more,
now?
Chitrayud? Yeah, it is a little better.
I think he's having some network issues.
Yeah, even I think he's having some
I'm also
network
having
issues.
difficulty hearing you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it is getting muffled at times.
Okay, okay. So, as I was saying, question to you: how do you approach a raga at a performance? Is it more of pre-planned structural impact or more of spontaneous creativity, or maybe a healthy balance of both? What is your view on this? The way I understand this question is, do you think of performance methodically or do you think of it instinctively?
It is a healthy balance of both. I don't think it is for me, it is for all of us. You know, a full-fledged raga or full-fledged performance, I don't believe can be only instinctive. It can be of more instinct, less plan, or more plan, less instinct, but it has to be of both in somewhat ratio. For me, instinct is very important. And since my childhood, I've always learned raga not by the notes or by the heart, but more of the nature of the raga. My grandfather used to say a raga is like a relative to you, a friend to you. You should know what is the age of the raga, or it is a he or a she. You must know what is the temperament. what temperament the raga is having. It was always like that, so it was more of a fun to me to learn a raga. Until now I bear that fun part inside me. A raga is kind of a person whom I know the nature of the person. So as soon as I start playing or start performing it, I know what is the demand of that person. It is very clear to me. The approach towards that demand can be different. So my music is different uh, at different point in time. But I know what is the demand. The approach can be different, but the demand, is more or less same all the time for that specific raga that I feel. And plan, plan will always come in between the instance, because when the major part of the riyaz, which I think is the repetitive practice, that is the because riyaz sound really bad. It is a very old time saying, riyaz sounds bad. And the logic behind that is, it is a repetitive structure. You play the same thing again and again and again and again and again to get used to. For me, it is more of a mind muscle connection. The practice is all about mind muscle connection, how good control you have on your fingers. And we more of a reflex action than your thought action. So that that instinctive practice, that instinctive playing, at times taken over with this riyaz or repetitive practice, where you play the gothic structures or the learned structures, run rhythm structures. But I have also seen in my playing that I am playing a learned structure or a preconceived structure. In between, I went somewhere else where my instinctive playing has come into vogue, and that has followed up again by a fixed structure again. So for me, it was a balance of both. Whenever I'm performing or playing or going with the flow, I have never thought about it differently. It is how it comes.
Right.
Dada, on these lines, we have a little clip of one of your puriyas, which is anyway a rare rag on the harmonium. We don't get to hear puriya so much on the harmonium. And I think that has exactly what you were just talking about, the healthy balance between both. So I think we would love to check that clip out once.
Sure, sure.
Yes. So, Chitrayudh, would you like to ask the next question?
I suppose the next question is for you to ask.
Okay. So this question is also from Anirban, and he was very keen to know this. You have often said that in the playing style of Gaya Gharana, certain ragas are played by changing the position of the tonic on the harmonium. Now, how precisely does it ease the finger movement and maintaining the same dexterity and the same fluency after changing the tonic positions might also turn out to be a problem at times, I suppose. So, how do you deal with that?
The main thing is that the logic behind is the finger movement structure which we have in Gaya Gharana. It is very scientific in nature because I have seen while teaching people, while teaching young students, I've seen that with that specific kind of technicality, uh, people learn harmonium playing very quickly at a rapid rate, you know, and that finger movement technique is based on that tonic position. It is a research of few hundred years that with those tonic positions for those specific rag, our finger movement technique, you know, is optimized at that tonic position. So the utilizations of fingers without cross movement, crossover, or without uh, unnatural movement of the basic finger movement technique is all about natural flow of finger movement. There should not be a crossover because this is a hindrance to a natural movement. Whenever there is a hindrance to natural movement, there is disadvantage. And other basic principle of the finger movement is that least energy, max output. Again, physics comes into vogue because my favorite subject was physics. So
Absolutely.
I I think about music from the physics point of view a lot. Pardon me for that. So the two basics of the finger movements of Gaya Gharana. One is enhancing natural ability of the finger movement, natural movement, all natural movement, and cut off the unnatural movements or crossover. Second is least effort, maximum output. We should not waste because in the slow playing, you might be getting a liberty of expending the amount of energy which you should not. But when you're moving around the keyboard in fraction of seconds, then even a small tad bit of energy disefficiency can be killing. So actually, when we are learning from the grassroots level, we are trying to thrive for that stature. So our learning from the grassroots level should be uh, like that of so-called a genius or a maestro. Because overnight something does not happen unless until you are trained from the absolute grassroots level to to conserve your energy or to give you the technique of extracting the best out of you. You cannot overnight you know be a legendary person or a great musician.
Absolutely. Absolutely agreed.
Abs- Absolutely. Now, the following question. You have been playing live for years now and have played a lot of concerts at prestigious venues internationally. How has the experience been so far being on stage? Please do share a memorable concert experience with us. If you have any anecdote with you, please do share.
Mm, lot of memorable concerts. I have been playing professionally on the stage for now, for almost 25, 28 years now. So it's a lot of time. So lot of concerts, lot of memorable. First concert which comes to my mind is my first public appearance at Doverlin Archive inauguration at the Doverlin at their office, and it was a huge concert. Ajay Jetu or Pandit Ajay Chakraborty was also on the same stage singing after me. So I did not have any idea of who is Ajay Chakraborty, what is Doverlane, or what is like that. I was just given a stage. I was a small kid, and my grandfather told that you go to the stage and please keep up the name of Gaya Gharana, don't drown it. That is the only thing you need to do. And he sat beside me, and Biplab accompanied me. Pundit Biplab Bhattacharya. He accompanied me. He stood first in the Doverlin competition, and accompanied me. And I played a small structure uh, that was very memorable because my guru was sitting beside me. That was my first stage appearance. Other big stage appearance was Swara Samrat Alap, which was a memorable experience. And so Swara Samrat Alap was another memorable experience, not only for the stage, or I'm very grateful to Tejan Kaku or Pandit Tejendranath Mujumdar for giving me Swara Samrat. But I played Dhamar for the first time on stage. And it was to me a historic occasion because for me, playing Dhamar on harmonium was kind of an achievement because it was like proving a point for me that it harmonium is such an instrument, you can at times it feels that it has been relegated since a long time. It has been relegated that your name should come at the last as you are a harmonium player. You should sit behind and play harmonium. So a lot of relegation in accordance with harmonium playing. So uh, I do not have any hard feeling regarding that. That is okay. That is how the system works or the culture goes, you know. But my work is every time to establish the instrument that, see, no matter uh, how hard thrashing you give to the instrument, I will prove you wrong each time. So you say that the mead is not there in harmonium. You cannot play this raga or that raga, but I can play. I can play. It is not at all arrogance from my side, but I will try to produce the sound which that raga demands. I will try to produce the repertoires or the patterns which the tal demands, or the ang which the tal demands. So that is where I always wanted to prove a point. And that jihad will go on to bring back the relegated instrument to the front. And I'm thankful to a lot of people, those who have given me opportunity to bring, because Calcutta Club, which the program which you started, that was a gala festival of Indian classical music that was one of the biggest stages of Kolkata. And after me, uh, Ustad Aman Ali Bangash was there with Pandit Shubhankar Banerjee. So you can imagine how big a stage that was. And I was given a chance for a solo harmonium. I was given a chance for Swara Samrat. So these are big achievements for me, not personally, but from the perspective of a solo harmonium wala, or the perspective of a harmonium wala. That harmonium was getting a forefront, or coming to the forefront, or getting that spotlight which it big time deserved. And one more memorable place which my journey shall not be complete if I do not talk about that is Ali Akbar College of Music, California. It was a memorable place. Uh, I went there in 2017, and it is absolutely the feeling which you get when you enter a mandir or a religious place for people of all religion. The the utmost respect, or the utmost I cannot describe the feeling in words when I went inside Aliabad College of Music and sat on that stage having Khan Saab's pick just above my head. And it was a great feeling. And I played Puriya Kalyan, which is again a very gothic kind of a raga, which is not allowed in harmonium. So harmonium is only for peppy numbers, jazzy numbers, or something of soft melody. So I played Puriya Kalyan full ala for 20-30 minutes, then started off with a Vilambit. So it was a very memorable thing each time, and I'm indebted to Swapan Jetu or Pandit Swapan Chatterjee, legendary tabla player. to he gave me that stage, and he told me that, I am giving you that stage. Now the responsibility is all yours. So each time I sit on the stage, it becomes memorable because the first point is to lift up that relegation on my beloved instrument, which people have. Actually, people do not have that relegation into their mind, but the notion is there that it is an accompanying instrument. The first thing which music engineer does is to put up a mic on my face because he thinks I'm going to sing. It is not his mistake because it has become custom. So each time I sit on the stage, whether it be big or small or medium, it becomes memorable because my journey of lifting up that relegation goes on and on.
And we sincerely wish you a lot more concerts, like many more, and may you really be able to establish whatever you're trying to establish with the harmonium.
Thank
And I
you.
really wish it gets the place amongst all the other musical instruments that you're like trying so hard to get it.
I have been into social media very aggressively. Being a IT guy, I have been into social media. I have a YouTube channel which is monetized, and probably the only harmonium channel which is a monetized channel. The monetized term, I'm not talking about the monetary benefit which I get, which is obviously very, very low, because it is obvious that a classical music dedicated channel will not have a huge amount of view. But it is my achievement. I feel it is an achievement that only a channel which is dedicated to harmonium has been monetized by YouTube. So the amount of love, comments, or anything which comes up from the all people, they are really inspiring. And I believe someday it will come when the next generation person, or the people those will come after me playing harmonium, shall not face the same difficulty which I faced, or my ancestor faced, regarding establishing harmonium.
Absolutely. And we really, really wish you all the best regarding this. We are all with you and we
Thank you.
sincerely hope this happens. Okay,
Thank you.
and on this line, since you mentioned YouTube channel and recordings, I also wanted to ask you about your life as a studio musician. You have recorded your own albums, and one of them being with the late Pandit Shubhankar Banerjee, whom we lost just a few days back. And I would really like to know more about your studio experiences.
Um, Coming to the studio experience, first let me talk about Chuangar Kaka. Chuangar Kaka has been a pillar in my musical life. He was a mentor to me, a father figure to me. It seemed that I lost my father, actually. So, since very tender age, I have been influenced by him. I've been to his place many a times, have performed, have had the privilege to perform with him at Indo-Occidental Symbiosis, another big platform, which I'm sorry I did not mention in the previous question. So losing Shubhankar Kaka was like losing my own father. So it is a great loss personally. And one more person whom I lost few months back after Shubhankar Kaka was Monikanto Vishwas, the owner of Shurokar. He was also another father figure to me. The two of the most important persons in my musical life I've lost in last few days. Now coming back to your question, I have done a little bit of studio kind of playing, but I have not done much of work in the studio. Moreover, as a classical musician, I'm a live artist, and I've always enjoyed playing live. In the studio recordings, also, whatever I have played, whether it be in the recording of musical black box or some other albums which I have been a part of, have always been impromptu. I've never played a structural pattern based recording in my life. Neither I enjoy. I have never been exposed to that sort of thing. So it is difficult for me to comment. Whatever live playing I have recorded in the studio, I've enjoyed. And those are absolutely live. No retakes strictly.
On these lines, Dada, we would listen to a little excerpt from your album, The Musical Black Box, with
Sure,
Shivam
a
Kapoor.
memorable one.
Beautiful, Dada. Very beautiful.
Just wanted to share a small thing about this recording. This was recorded in the Kushum studio in Vijayagad. It was in 2010, long time back. And I just came to the recording from my visa interview for my university. I did my university from University of Manchester, and I had my visa interview on that very day. I had my interview in the Kid Street, probably in the UK visa office, Kid Street, and then I rushed to the recording and I recorded. This is a very memorable day. This was a very memorable day because I cleared for the visa, and this was my first recording.
Wonderful, Dada. Wonderful. So Chitrayudh is going to take over for the next question now.
Right. Apart from these fantastic and innovative albums, you've also been featured in documentaries about the harmonium. One of them being the musical Black Box. You were talking about the musical Black Box. Please to share a few things about these documentaries with us and how they have contributed in bringing this wonderful instrument to the spotlight. How has it
The
contributed in bringing the harmonium into the mainstream as a solo instrument?
Yeah, the musical Black Box, the documentary which you're talking about, was based on my grandfather, Pandit Kumar Banerjee. He was the main topic in that documentary, and I was a part of it eventually because I started learning from him at that point in time. And so we had a small clip, so it was based on him actually. That featured me as well. It was done by Mrs. Roktima Dotto, and it is a fantastic documentary on harmonium and Gaya Gharana. Though based on my grandfather, but it has a lot of information about harmonium and Gaya Gharana. Anybody who is willing to draw a reference out of a Gaya Gharana can watch that documentary that is on my YouTube channel, Musical Black Box, and that is amazing documentary that gives you a reference of Gaya Gharana, how music came down to Kolkata, to my family, my grandfather's learning, and then teaching me. Everything is there in that documentary. And I have been featured into two of the other documentaries. One, a Japanese documentary, which is also there on YouTube. I forgot the name of the director, and other by Government of India, which is not there on YouTube. So I have been featured on and off in few documentaries on harmonium. I cannot tell you the direct impact of them as far as the harmonium is concerned, but I'm sure that must have increased the awareness of people regarding harmonium because a lot of notion is there regarding harmonium. Uh, Harmonium, I always say harmonium is an instrument which is very much taken for granted. As it is a scaled instrument, the basic playing of the the Sargam board doesn't require knowledge at all. If you start from C, if you press all the white keys right to the next octave, it is a Sarigama Padanisa and come back Sanidapa Magaresa. So you don't need knowledge apparently. That is no, that is where the problem starts. So when you take anything for granted, then you become stagnant and you get to hover around that very point and cannot move ahead. So in doing anything, not only harmonium, in doing anything, however easy it may be, the first thing you need to do is to learn it.
Dada, on these lines, we come to the final question, which is again about learning. So, you are a very accomplished harmonium instructor and guru, and you have been teaching students from all across the world through your online classes. Now, how do you approach music education for them? Like, what do you ask your students to seek?
The first thing, see, I don't consider myself guru. I consider myself to be a colleague of them, whoever learning from me. I because guru is a very heavy word. I don't think I am able enough to be guru of anyone or so-called teacher. I believe in sharing my musical knowledge and I professionally share, so I get a little bit of money out of it. So, but I don't consider that I teach something because I am not of that standard, of that level. I'm a small musician, but whatever expertise or knowledge I have gathered from my guru, I try to impart it professionally. The first thing, now coming to your question, the first thing what I ask for is your love and your sincerity. These two things and nothing else. You don't need a background or a foreground. You need a harmonium, you need love, and you need sincerity. These three things you must have to learn. So that is the main thing. So I teach all over the globe by God's grace, over 4 or 5 continents, and and of different ages, starting from right from 12, 11, 12 to 74, 75, 76 aged people. Those have started at that age, and they have made remarkable progress just by following the basic technology of harmonium playing. That is what I am always emphasizing or trying to bring up, is that you have to have that proper knowledge, or the proper, you have to know the proper way of playing the instrument. In order to that, I always say, unlearn, learn, and relearn. So unlearning is also a big thing, because many who come to me have a pre-contact text of harmonium playing, which I don't like saying wrong. I don't like using the technique wrong, but not proper, which is unproper, at least with reference to our playing. So it is very difficult to unlearn first. Unlearn, learn, and then relearn. That relearning is going on all the time. We are all relearning each moment. So that is the teaching, or so-called quote unquote imparting the knowledge or distributing the knowledge of harmonium, has been a very interesting journey for me, because I always felt that you can only establish harmonium if 5, 6, 7, 10 people of your generation play solo harmonium playing of utmost standard.
And what is your favorite part of teaching and sharing your knowledge with your students?
My favorite part is actually, whenever this process happens and I get to see people, the people, they did not have hope of playing with a teen tal, a bandish, badhat, antara, with a tan, and coming back to the sum and going for a bandish again. It feels amazing. It feels amazing. Mane, that is absolutely unbelievable and incredible how those people can do that. I don't know. I don't, take credit for that. But this Gaya Gharana lessons, or the technology itself, is so strong and so fantastic. I've seen 70 plus, 70 years old plus, 74 years old people learning harmonium and playing a proper bandish, a proper antara, proper badhat, with a tan, coming to the sum with a teen tal. Those have never heard what is teen tal. So it is fantastic. It is fantastic. It is incredible, amazing. The amount of respect, the amount of sincerity, the amount of love they have is is incredible.
Fantastic, Dadas. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. And we had a very intense discussion today, the three of us.
I hope I have answered to all of your questions, well. I hope.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is
It
going to
was a
be a
pleasure.
very memorable episode in our Upaj sessions.
Thank you. Thank you. I wish you all the best, to Chitrayudh, to Swarnabha, to Anirban. You people are doing great work in promoting Indian classical music in whatever way you can, because it is our responsibility to promote, to distribute, to propagate the heritage which we have, not only selfishly doing it for ourselves only. I always
Absolutely.
believe that is the responsibility. We have a responsibility. So I'm very happy to see you people doing such commendable work. And I was pleasantly surprised and very happy to see the amount of thinking you have put behind the questions.
We try to like ensure that every questionnaire is tailor made for our guests and their music, their temperament. So we are also trying
Very
to
nice.
bring some issues into the light which need to be spoken about, discussed about, and you guys are all doing groundbreaking stuff which is very inspiring for us as musicians and students of
Thank
Indian
you.
classical music. And so I guess Dada, we'll be ending with one last video. Chitrayu, do you have anything to say before we take leave?
Uh, I just came up with a question. Uh, if he agrees to it, I'll ask that question.
What do you say, Dada?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
See, on the other side of the lineage, Ravi Shankar ji is also your Dada Guru, right? So,
Absolutely.
have you attempted in bringing any aspect of his playing style on the sitar into your harmonium playing, elements like krintan, etc.?
I would say consciously no,
Okay,
but I have tried to put his thinking into my playing, which is a big task because I'm no one
right,
to say that I've put Ravi Shankar's thinking into my playing. It's a big line. I should not be misquoting myself. So it is not like I have tried to put his thinking of looking because if you follow Ravi Shankar ji very closely, before him nobody implemented the playing of sitar in that way which he did. His playing was
absolutely,
absolutely atypical of sitar or atypical of anybody. He had his own
exactly,
style, and which
absolutely,
was followed up by his students. So I have not specifically tried to put up anybody's playing, any of my gurus playing directly to my playing, but I have tried invoking the thinking of them because the thinking is very important. The most important part of playing is somebody's thinking or thought.
right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely, Dada.
So
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so
You're
much for
most
agreeing
welcome.
to this interview.
It has been a it has been a pleasure and a very enjoyable evening with all of you. I wish you all the best and thank you to all the viewers for watching us and being with us. Thank you. Namaskar.
thank you. So we'll be ending with one of my favorite videos, which I found from your channel only. This is a Mishra Sindhura you had played in that same concert, the Siddhasi Mallar concert, and I really loved it. So I thought that we should definitely end with it.
Thank you.
Okay, so here it goes.